Hey guys, Brooke Whipple here. Welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about should you apply for a loan on History. You know, that survival show, the one I've been on twice. I want to give you some insight into the process of applying for the show, who they're looking for, what it's like. Stay tuned. If you're not familiar with a loan, they take 10 participants, and those 10 people get to pick 10 items. 10 items come from a short list of things that are allowed to be taken on the show. At the start of the show, you are dropped at a remote location, completely alone, to see how long you can survive in the wild with those 10 items. Getting your food, getting your shelter, getting your water, keeping yourself fed, making sure you don't go crazy. Oh, and you've got to film every waking second. So alone is a job. Getting on the show is a job. Being on the show is a job. You've got to be the type of person who can handle all of that. It's very exciting. I think as far as skills go, if you are adaptable, are inventive, if you have skills and can show those skills, you're gonna do okay. The biggest thing is to not set expectations for what it's going to be like, because you have no idea what it's going to be like. You can say all day long, I'm gonna get there and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. The fact is, you don't know jack until you get there. You don't know what you have to work with. You don't know what your site is like. You don't know what resources you have. You know nothing. And the real crux of the show is you will never know anything. They keep you in the dark through the entire process. So going in with preconceived expectations of what you're gonna do, how you're gonna do it, how you're gonna, like, that's a bad plan. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I wanna back up to the actual casting process and what that looks like. So you send in your application. They're gonna look at every application. So don't think, oh, well, they never even looked at mine. They're gonna look at your application. If they like you enough, they're gonna say, we wanna see more. They're gonna reach out. First thing that might happen is you'll get a phone call that they want to see more of you. Maybe they're even gonna want a Skype interview with you. They're gonna maybe even send you a camera if you don't have one, and they're gonna ask you to film something for them. They're gonna maybe ask you to film an overnight, to build a shelter, to kind of stage what you would be like on camera in a situation in the woods, in the wilderness. They want to see you in front of a camera. They want to see some of your skills. And that's an important part of the casting process if you get that call. So you're going to want to do the best you can, obviously, with that video submission once you've been asked for it. The whole casting process is one big, giant question mark. As far as time and timing and waiting, and you wait some more, and you're hoping and you're wishing, and then you wait. And you wait some more. It's just going to drag out forever. And you're gonna be on the hook for a long time before you know anything specific. And at this point, all you're trying to do is get to go to boot camp. You get that call that says, we're gonna invite you to boot camp. You're like, yeah! And maybe months has passed since that very first connection and that very first phone call. So, you get all excited, you get to go to boot camp. What is boot camp like? Well, hello Daisy. Ugh, don't go under my camera. Boot camp is where you're gonna get tested for reals. What they wanna see at boot camp is who represented themselves in their application, in their videos, in their Skype interview accurately. Who actually has the skills, has what it's going to take to be on this show. And like I said before, you know, I do think they're looking for charisma. I do think they're looking for interesting characters. They're looking for people who are going to stand out. And I'm not talking about over the top, overacting, fake, you know. You've seen those shows where the personalities are over the top. And that's not what they're looking for. They're just looking for interesting people. Do you have the skills? Do you have the personality? But beyond that, do you have the skills? Do you have the mental capacity? You're going to be tested at boot camp in many, many ways. So you better be legit, because you're still fighting for a spot on the TV show. They're going to bring in twice as many people for boot camp than that are actually going to go to the show. So when you show up, it is immediately everyone is sizing everybody else up. because you're all wanting to get on the show, and now all of you are on the line. This is where the rubber meets the road. We're gonna see who has the skills, who has the charisma, who can handle the camera training, who can pass all the tests, and show the experts and the producers and the whole crew there that you have what it takes to get on the show. It's a nerve-wracking at least week of your life that you're gonna have to be there at boot camp. So I will say this about boot camp: there's a lot of egos, there's a lot of posturing, but you also make some great friends. And you're really gonna find yourself drawn to some people, and some people, unfortunately, you're never gonna see again. They're not gonna make it to the show. But at the end of the day, you're gonna come away buddies with these people who went to boot camp. You're going through something that's unique and it's exciting, and no one knows the outcome. And now guess what happens? You gotta wait some more. Yep, you gotta wait some more. You're gonna leave boot camp with probably a good idea of who you think is gonna get on the show, including yourself. I think it becomes almost obvious who will make that cut and who won't by the end of that week. So it's an interesting process. But you wait, and then you finally get a phone call. Did you make it on the show, or did you not? So that can be a heartbreaking call or a celebration call, depending on how it goes for you. Once you get the go-ahead to be on the show, it is full steam ahead. You've got like a short 3 weeks before you're going to be traveling to location, and that's also when you find out where you're actually going. So you're not gonna find out anything, even the location where you're going to go, until you're actually on the show. So once you've got the word that you're gonna be on the show, they tell you where you're going, they give you the schedule of where you're gonna meet. You're gonna meet for probably 10 days before the actual drop date, because there's a lot of camera training, there's a lot of moving pieces that need to happen before you actually get dropped. And in between that time, they're gonna shoot a little segment at your house about your life and your family and all that good stuff. This is also the time you're gonna be racking your brain about what 10 items am I going to take. And I mean, it can consume you. It's an evolving list in your head and on paper, and the pros and the cons and what am I gonna take, and you know, by then you know where you're going. So based on the location, you can kind of try to, you know, figure out what you're gonna wanna take. But the other thing you've gotta figure out is, how are you going to cover work while you're gone? How are you gonna cover your bills while you're gone? Who's gonna take care of your business while you're gone? Because you don't know how long you're gonna be gone. At the end of the day, it's a one-way ticket at this point. So there's a lot to take care of in a short amount of time. You're pumped up, you're excited. I mean, this thing is moving along now. And this has probably spanned 6 or 7, maybe even 8 months of your life to get to this point. Once you get to the location, it's like, woohoo! You're hugging all the people who actually made it on the show that you met at boot camp. It's a real time of bonding. I would say for me personally, it did not feel competitive at that point. And actually, it never felt competitive. You are going through something that is so unique with these other 10 individuals. It just feels like you're in this special club. And I know, at least for Dave and I can speak on his behalf too, that we just really enjoyed our time before we got dropped. We enjoyed spending time with the other people that were going to be on the show. We formed these really close bonds. And before you launch, you're just hoping and wishing good luck on them too, because you're all in this together. Really, this is a show that's a competition, but really you are in competition with yourself. The battles you are going to wage with yourself, they are bigger than any kind of competition you will ever have with any of the contestants. This is a solo game. This is a mental game. This is a stamina game. It's a weight loss game. It's a food game. It's a shelter game. It's a predator game. Everything you can think of that can play with your mind will play with your mind. On top of all that, you have to deal with the technology. You will be filming. They will tell you you're not filming enough, and you're like, I'm filming every flipping minute. There's a lot to learn in a short amount of time. Before launch, you're going to go over safety, you're going to go over protocol, you're going to go over camera training, you're going to go over wild edibles in the area and what's going to be allowed to be hunted and fished, and so on and so forth. There's a lot to cover. And as the day to launch gets closer and closer and closer, the reality will begin to sink in that this is real. I will never forget when we were on season 4, and that was the season where it was family members. So actually Dave and I, my husband Dave and I were both going to be dropped at a location, but they had determined ahead of time, of course, that he was going to be dropped at a location and I was going to be dropped. We were going to have to meet up, which actually took 8 days for him to get to me. And then we ended up staying for 49 days. And that location was northern Vancouver Island. We were actually on a little island off the big island. This is late October, almost November. We were in this beautiful wilderness lodge before we launched. And our room was on the second story, so we were right under the roof, pouring rain. It's like 40 degrees. And it is so black outside. It's so black there. There's no lights. There's nothing in the sky. You can put your hand in front of your face and you can't see it. We're lying there in bed and it's warm and it's cozy. We just had this wonderful meal with all of our new friends. And you're like in 2 days, I'm gonna be out there in that. And I just remember how sobering of a moment that was. To think that you're just going to get dropped off by helicopter, people are going to leave, and you're going to have a tarp and a knife and an axe, and you're on your own. It's an interesting moment. Now in season 5 was returning cast, so we all had been there and done that before. That sobering moment was present the entire time, because we all knew the realities of what that felt like to get dropped off completely alone and go through that once again. All of the returning cast for season 5 joked a lot about having PTSD and having to go through this again. And in my case, my experiences were 9 months apart, so I had really not that much time to recover and process before I was right back in the same situation, which was very interesting and exciting. You go through the interviews, you submit your videos, you go through phone calls and emails, you get selected for boot camp, you make it through boot camp, you go to location, you make it through the pre-launch, and then it's time to go. And you wake up in the morning and the mood is quite changed. It is much more serious. It's go time, it's go day. You're going to get dropped for who knows when. This is your last meal. You have your last breakfast. They actually shake you down to make sure you don't have anything on your person that shouldn't be there. And you won't see your gear until you're dropped, because it is that strict about, they're not gonna allow you any little extra something you might hide in your gear or on your person, so you're gonna get shook down. Then you jump on a helicopter when it's your turn. You take that glorious ride to see the country where you're going to get dropped. The only bird's eye view you're ever going to get. It's exciting. Then they drop you and they fly off. And you're just left to look around and settle in to, this is your life for however long you can make it. And it's complete silence, all the hullabaloo, the excitement, the anticipation, the worry, the dread, the whatever you're feeling, the fear, it's all gone, because here you are in the moment. And that's when it gets interesting. I highly encourage you to apply. If you are one of those people who have always wanted to challenge yourself like that, and I think there's so many of us out there that, just jump at the chance for this. I mean, I did it twice. I'm not sure I'd do it again. Twice is enough. But, there's something very primal about wanting to see how you could survive, how adaptive you would be, how resourceful you would be, how you would handle things mentally. How would you do? How long would you last? What would get to you? What would bother you? What would you be really good at? What would be a challenge? What would rattle you? What would surprise you to know about yourself that you're really good at? So who should apply for this show? Anybody that thinks you can do it. Anybody that wants that challenge. Anybody that has the guts and the go in them to want to do something like this, do it. I don't care what your gender is. I don't care how old you are. There is a fire that burns deep inside of us to have amazing experiences. And I think a show like this gives you that chance in a relatively safe environment where you can fail and you won't die, hopefully. So I think if you have any inkling at all that you would like to go through something like that, you should apply. They are always looking for people that think they can do it. And they're always looking for people for the next season. Some things you can do to kind of get ready for that situation is practice, practice, practice. Stop reading books and start doing it. Because until you do it, everything is hypothetical. I encourage you to get out, do some solo overnights. Put yourself as far away from civilization as you can for a weekend. No cell phone, no car. Get out there far enough that it will feel real. Feel what it feels like to be hungry. Feel what it feels like to be scared. Feel what it feels like to make something out of nothing. And that's what's really going to matter. The other thing you can do is start playing around with cameras, start recording and videoing yourself, start talking into cameras and learning how to narrate and basically be a living journal to a camera. Because that's what it's going to take when you're on the show. You have to regurgitate and vomit every thought and every minute of every day. That's what they want. They want the camera to be your friend, to be your diary, and it's going to be a lot of work. There's going to be times you don't want to film, but that's what you signed up for, so you got to do it. So get used to that. Get used to moving cameras around. Get used to dealing with the technology, because that's a huge part of the show. Yes, you are completely alone. Alone is not a fake show. They'll drop you off and they are gone. You have an emergency button to push if you need help, but other than that, you're on your own. It is the most amazing experiences I've ever had in my life. Surrounded by amazing people who become your friends and you stay in touch. It's a really cool thing. And I can't wait to see you on the next season of Alone. Guys, leave your questions and comments below. I'd love to carry on this conversation with you in the comment section, read each other's comments, and maybe we'll do a follow-up video after this if I get a lot of questions. So thanks for joining me. This is Girl in the Woods. She gone. Oh, and don't forget to get outside and get happy.